Hello everyone, I'm in Buffalo, New York. I thought I knew a lot about this city as I only live across the lake, but it turns out that I needed to learn more, which is why I'm now here at the Buffalo History Museum for my first ever visit. Now this is in a very historical and palatial section of northern Buffalo and part of, say, this museum, mini Smithsonian type of setup. Just across the lake is the AKG Museum. But here we have an entire facility dedicated to the history of the city itself in a beautiful neoclassical building just behind me here. I'd like to thank the museum for welcoming me today to take you around and tour the exhibits and check out the history of a city that I really didn't know too much about. Turns out Buffalo was one of the biggest port cities in the world, if not in just North America, at the time of the, say, 1900s or early 1900s. And it's also had a significant history in steel manufacturing, aviation, automobiles, the list goes on. Buffalo may not be quite as industrious as it was in the past, but it certainly has a storied and colorful past and history that we're going to discover inside this building. So join me for the first time as I discover the history of Buffalo in its own dedicated museum. Let's go inside.
In this building, we do a glass of water for free. We also have the first one.
Now you're in the center hall of this quite grand building in the main exhibit space. We're going to start at the top and work our way back down. Ralph Wilson is a significant figure in the history of Buffalo, especially in its sports history. And it's here that we have the Ralph Wilson Wing, a gallery commemorating his influence and presence in the Buffalo community. It's primarily sports, but that's what he is known for. It's a bit of a shame that the stadium is not named after him anymore. This is actually an exhibit celebrating early Buffalo sports. Moving on to more familiar sporting exploits of the Buffaloes. Buffalo history. Definitely check out our Key Bank Center vlog that celebrates these particular jerseys and the rink of which their team currently plays. Bruce Smith is one of my favorite football players from that storied franchise years of the 80s and 90s. Unfortunately, this team, hopefully in the future, will get over the hump, as these gentlemen did not unfortunately achieve in their many Super Bowl appearances. Thurman Thomas, another great. Patty LaFontaine. John Tavares. Really of my era, at least when I was a kid, but one of the most dominating players of all time and definite Buffalo legend, Mr. Dominic Hasek. Sorry for the glass, I don't have a Baby Joe Messi, original boxing gloves and shorts. There we go, a championship to celebrate. Again, the Key Bank Center, which we were just at only a couple of weeks ago. I'm pretty sure this is Ralph Wilson's This is a display commemorating the history of Peter Roselle. Rick Janneret as well. You may know the Mayday, Mayday call if you know your Buffalo sporting history. I certainly know it myself. Of course, Brad May scoring that famous goal that triggered that famous sporting commentary. You can still somewhat visit, and we will have to at some point during our Buffalo travels, as it's been repurposed into a community center, sporting complex. It was originally the home of the Buffalo Bills. I've yet to see a Buffalo Bandits game, but I'll probably have to correct that in the near future. World champions of 2023, not too long ago. Jacket or a painting of Red Jacket. Significant as it once was. Haudenosaunee Longhouse. from 1820. Snowshoes, which you capture quite a lot of where I'm from. The Buffalo Creek Reservation. And we've kind of gone backwards in time here, so now we're getting into prehistoric relics. Paleo-Indians, the Archaic period, Mimoka culture, the Laurentian culture, and the Woodland period all figured in these various tools of what. This museum definitely reminds me a lot, as I said before, of the Empire State Museum, almost like a miniature version of that, as you can see with some of these artifacts. Fascinating lighthouse. I wonder if this is the actual original lighthouse light. Sorry, I don't know the technical term, but beacon maybe. This is some of its more recent history on exhibit from 1959 to 1990. A period of turmoil. It's so fascinating to me, the building of the Skyway Bridge. Of course, the famous Buffalo snowstorm of '77, still referred to even in the tour that I took earlier of City Hall. People remember it. The resurgence period of Buffalo, as highlighted in this final exhibit from 1991 to 2020. You see Bison Stadium up top. Another famous fixture of the city that I have yet to visit, but will make short work of that. Some relics of the early banking period of Buffalo. These are presses for the production of currency that I don't think I've ever seen this before. And I've been to the Bank of Canada Museum, and I don't even think they had those on exhibit. It's quite fascinating to see these copper plates. Printing plates for notes from $10, $21, and $2. And then of course we come to 1812 to 1815. In the very early history of Buffalo as a city in the colonial period. This would be Peter B. Porter. Quite distinctive, these artifacts, for what they are and the contentious history that they represent. Anyone that knows Niagara is familiar with barrels. Now this is just a wee one. Not quite like what you find at, say, the Niagara Museum. Of course, Buffalo is significant, not only, as I've discovered, for being one of the largest aviation manufacturers in North America. In addition to automobiles, it was once the largest port city in North America and the second largest steel producer in the United States. Industry being a significant part of the history of Buffalo. In fact, pretty much the only reason why the city exists. The boom years, harnessing Niagara Falls, significant explorations of which we will see during this particular year. Kind of a nice painting, actually, commemorating that history. The Spirit of Niagara in 1901. President McKinley was shot by a revolver, just like this one, on September 6, 1901. He unfortunately passed away. Leon Zaglas. I'm probably not going to get that name right, but Theodore Roosevelt was to take his seat as president soon thereafter. As you see images here of the actual day of the tragic event. The Lackawanna Iron and Steel Company. This looks like more like a turbine. A sand mold pattern, actually. We are working on a tour of the Buffalo Central Terminal. Here is an image from it in its heyday, another Art Deco masterpiece. One of many to be found in the city. Of course, again, War Memorial Stadium, in its more recent past of 1979. This would have been when Rich Stadium had been realized.
Hello there. Oh my goodness. Hello,
The Buffalo Memorial Auditorium, known as the Odd.
Hey, when you come here, I want to show you something. Did you see all these things?
Hallwalls is a contemporary art exhibition space that is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. It was founded by Robert Irwin, a local artist that during a visit from Charlie Cloth and Robert Longo decided to set up an exhibition space at 30 Essex Street to highlight contemporary art, and it's still going today. In fact, there's been 6,500 exhibits in the space over the years, and also featuring 8,000 artists. So quite a remarkable piece of work, a very important contemporary art facility within Buffalo, without question. Here we're going to get a snapshot of its history over the years. There's a lot of exhibits around this room here, so I'm going to give you, for the lack of time, I'm not going to go into too much detail about each one, but I'll give you an overview of the exhibit itself. Sidney Sherman happens to be one of my favorite artists, as a matter of fact, so this is very cool to see. I won't lie, that is kind of how I experienced my 90s. I really wish I had the portable editing deck that they have here. Although I did use one in my film school years. An excellent contemporary print media and work corresponding to what artists were able to put together pre the digital age. Those of you that know Buffalo history will know of the Pink Bar, which unfortunately I was not able to visit before its tragic demise only recently in a fire. But you can see that it was a important space for artists of the Buffalo community, as commemorated in this particular piece by Joan Linder. In fact, a 2007 ballpoint pen piece studying the Pink Bar itself is quite remarkable. Here we have a reconstruction of a period settlement of Buffalo Creek from just the turn of the 19th century. All authentic pieces here from the period. It's amazing how only 200 years ago, a little over 220 years ago now, how different life indeed was. It's a bit of a unique feature, as a matter of fact, that the floor is creaking as they've made the floor of the period. So it really gives you the effect of what you're walking in, or it really takes you back in time. This floor with its creaking kind of reminds me of walking in a barn, but it's a nice touch to this particular area. It really kind of gives you a sense of the period. I do love Pioneer Village attractions and historical attractions, which brings us here, so comment below if you'd like to see more content like this for sure. Now, the Holland Land Company had a significant, if not the most significant, influence in the history of Buffalo, in the sense that it essentially founded the town of Buffalo and established it as a potential port city of the future. Here we have some relics of their surveying of the area from the past, done by Joseph Ellicott, a name that is well known in this region. In fact, there's a town just south of here, a famous resort village named Ellicotteville, which we'll be visiting in another video as well. I'm not an expert in the history of Buffalo. In fact, I've met a few people already on this trip that have given me quite the amount of insight into the history of Buffalo. But the Holland Purchase was the most significant in establishing Buffalo, the city itself, in the 1800s. In fact, they established the city and created its boundaries and urban planning design. A lot of the remnants of which, outside of just these artifacts that you see from a blacksmith, still exist today. John Crow, in fact, opened the tavern on the southwest corner of Washington and Exchange Streets, in addition to providing lodging to settlers and their families. Crow's Tavern also acted as Buffalo Creek's first post office. Taverns were a lot more important back in the day. Erastus Granger came to Buffalo Creek with orders from President Thomas Jefferson. He worked as a postmaster from a desk in the corner of the Crow's Tavern for 2 years before building a more permanent structure. Not sure if the Crow's Tavern still exists, probably doesn't, but it would be a cool place to check out if it did. So in this, the Penfold Portico, which is an event space from what it looks like, as you'll see in a moment. We also have a special exhibit here of editorial cartoons. By Adam Ziglis. His 20 years of doing editorial cartoons. Pulitzer Prize winning artist, as a matter of fact, as you can see by this front page headline from the Buffalo News. And here you can capture on this easel an idea, an impression of the museum in its past with a picture capturing that. And just a little brief look at here the Penfold Portico itself. Quite a nice event space in this classical building that has impressed me already. It's in simplicity of design, but very stately and perfect for a museum. It appears there was an event in here just recently. Definitely a cool space. Probably, comment below. I know that the Buffalo Museum is probably watching this video, so definitely I will pin a comment if they have better insight in what actually goes on in this room, other than probably special events and maybe art presentations and new special events in the art world. As I found out on a separate tour, Buffalo was once a center of automobile manufacturing, and Charles Clifton was a key figure in that history. And this clock was presented to him and his wife in 1912. It is a beautiful clock. It's a very melancholy and the infinite sadness kind of feel to me with this face at the top. Now, make full admission that even in the hour and a half, or short of an hour and a half that I've had to do this museum, I haven't done justice to the artifacts that are here. It's not a massive museum, which is actually refreshing considering that most museums can be kind of overwhelming over time if you spend several hours in them, and it's just, the exhibits tend to be a little bit oversaturated. This is a perfect amount to capture Buffalo's history overall in a really unique space that's really delightful to see for the first time. You have a lot of exhibits that are familiar as well from, say, people like myself that have lived near to the city for quite some time and know some aspect of it, but I think it could even do with some more, i.e. with the broadcast history for those of us across the border that remember the television stations that used to broadcast out of here. It's just one thing, the media doesn't seem to be too well represented other than the temporary art exhibits in the lower floor. That's not a criticism, that's just a suggestion for what could be even greater, or maybe they will also have something like that in the future if they haven't already as well. I'm sure the museum will tell me, because I would certainly love to check that out. I'd like to thank the museum for welcoming me so graciously today, and I hope you guys liked the vlog, because I certainly enjoyed visiting and finding out more about the history of Buffalo during this brief little visit. Hope you enjoyed the tour as well. Comment below if you have better insights into some of the makeshift aspects of the history that I was able to come up with based on my limited history of Buffalo, or limited knowledge of Buffalo, but I certainly know a lot more as a benefit from this visit. All right, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for dropping in.